Welcome to the deep dive. Imagine you type a single sentence into your terminal, right? You get up to go make a sandwich, and when you come back, well, an invisible team of developers has completely rewritten your front end.
Yeah, and they've probably tested your back end too.
Exactly. And they even generated a pristine slide deck for your boss explaining exactly what they just did.
It is wild.
It really is. So today's mission is exploring one of the most talked about tech releases of 2026, which is Anthropic's Claude Code 2.0.
We are definitely looking at a paradigm shift here. It's got the entire software engineering world buzzing right now.
For sure. Because since around, September 2025 leading up to today in March 2026, developers are seriously questioning if they can just completely ditch their custom kind of Frankenstein-like tool pipelines for pure Claude code.
Right. I mean, it's completely upended the standard workflow. But to understand why developers are reacting this way, you really have to look at what Claude Code is at its mechanical core.
Yeah, because we aren't talking about a chatbot sitting in a browser window.
No, not at all. This is an agentic programming assistant that lives primarily right there in your command line interface, the CLI.
That black screen with the blinking cursor where the actual guts of programming happen.
Exactly. It understands your entire code base, it reads your files, and it executes commands natively. And it's powered by the massive capabilities of Anthropic's newest models, right? Claude Sonnet 4.5 and Opus 4.6.
Which allows it to reason step by step like a tireless senior developer.
Yeah, tireless being the key word there.
Okay, let's unpack this, because going from version 1.x to 2.0 here isn't just, getting a better autocomplete.
Not even close.
Right. The best analogy I can think of is comparing this transition to having a really, really smart autocorrect on your phone versus hiring an entire autonomous remote development team that just never sleeps.
That's a great way to put it.
You don't just ask it to predict your next line of code anymore. You hand it an entire feature request, and it breaks that request down and does the manual labor itself.
And that remote development team concept, well, it isn't just a metaphor anymore. It's quite literal when you look at how Claude Code 2.0 actually divides and conquers complex tasks.
Yeah, let's get into that.
So if you look at the architectural changes in this release, the biggest leap forward is the introduction of agent teams.
Let's talk about how that actually works. Because if Claude 2.0 is basically a full development team in a box, it has to function like one, right?
Right.
And the sources highlight a feature called subagents. So basically, Claude can spawn specialized subagents to work in parallel.
Which is a huge deal.
It is.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you've ever built an app, you know how linear the process usually is,
Yeah.
step one, step two.
It's very sequential, yeah.
But here, you prompt it to build a new logging portal, and instead of writing it chronologically, it spins up one subagent to tackle the front-end UI.
While it spawns another one to write the back-end authentication tests.
Exactly. And maybe a third to handle refactoring the old database schema. And they are all typing and compiling at the exact same time.
What's fascinating here is how Opus 4.6 manages that chaos. Because in the 4.6 model, this parallelism evolved into formal agent teams with a dedicated leader.
A leader agent.
Yeah, think of the leader agent not as a coder, but as the head chef in a high-end kitchen standing at the expo window.
Oh, I like that.
It isn't chopping onions or searing meat, right? Its sole job is to hold the high-level architecture in its mind.
So it's just delegating.
Delegating the tasks, ensuring the front-end subagent's code aligns perfectly with what the back-end subagent is building, and reviewing the outputs before they actually get merged.
Wow.
The leader agent handles the synthesis, and that's how a multi-hour architectural overhaul gets compressed into literally minutes.
Okay, I have to step in here and play devil's advocate for the listener.
Go for it.
Because having an AI independently spawn a bunch of subagents to rapidly rewrite code in parallel across my entire repository.
It sounds scary.
It sounds incredibly powerful, but also absolutely terrifying. What stops this invisible AI team from completely destroying my project while I'm out getting that coffee?
Oh, it's a very valid concern.
I mean, if 3 agents are moving fast and breaking things, my whole application could be fundamentally bricked by the time I get back to my desk.
You'd think it would be a disaster waiting to happen, honestly. But the system relies on strict contextual boundaries.
How so?
Well, the leader agent doesn't let the front-end subagent see the entire database schema, for example. It only gives it the specific API contract it needs to function. It isolates them.
Right, keeping them in their lanes.
Exactly. But even with perfect coordination, your anxiety is completely justified. The fear of an autonomous agent breaking production code was like the single biggest barrier to adoption in earlier AI tools.
Oh, totally. Developers simply wouldn't walk away from their keyboards.
Right. And that exact fear is what drove the most crucial architectural changes in 2.0, which are the safety net and the visibility layer.
The safety net is brilliant. Let's talk about the automatic checkpoints.
Yeah, those are lifesavers.
Because before Claude makes any major change to your repository, it automatically creates a snapshot of the Git tree. It's exactly like video game save states, but for enterprise software.
That's the perfect analogy.
So if the AI messes up or, hallucinates a library that doesn't exist, you don't have to spend an hour untangling a massive broken Git commit.
Nobody wants to do that.
No. You just hit a button, do an instant rewind, and reload your save.
And once that psychological barrier breaks, once you realize you literally can't permanently destroy your repository, human behavior changes.
Because you aren't so stressed.
Exactly. When you are constantly afraid a tool might ruin your hard work, you micromanage it. But with a guaranteed instant undo button, that cognitive load just vanishes. You start trusting the tool to take bigger swings.
You don't even have to trust it blindly because it's not just happening invisibly in the terminal anymore.
Yeah, the visibility layer.
Yeah. The second part of that safety net is the native VS Code integration. So Anthropic released an official extension, and now you get a dedicated sidebar right in your code editor.
It's so seamless.
It really is. As these agent teams are working, you get real-time diffs. You can see the exact red and green lines of code the agents want to change live on your screen.
And you just approve or deny.
Exactly. You accept or reject them with a single click.
Users are actually reporting that this visual integration makes the experience 3 to 4 times more fluid than version 1.x.
I believe it.
Because you aren't constantly context switching between a black terminal window and your colorful code editor trying to reverse engineer what the AI just did. The visibility is immediate.
So if the tool is this powerful, and it's now entirely safe to leave unattended because of those checkpoints and the real-time diffs, the natural next step for any developer is figuring out how to stop triggering it manually.
Oh, absolutely.
You want to put this thing on autopilot. Which brings us to the new programmable features.
Automation is the logical conclusion here. And the sources detail 3 major additions. First is the /loop command,
Right.
which allows for the autonomous execution of repetitive or iterative tasks.
Like telling it, hey, go through these 50 legacy files and update the formatting to our new linting standards.
Basically the grammatical rules of your code base.
Right, the grammar rules. And you say, don't stop until every single file passes the test.
And then you take that a step further with schedule tasks.
Oh, this is cool.
You can instruct Claude to run a nightly build or perform an automated security vulnerability check every morning at 3 a.m.
While you sleep.
Exactly. It wakes up, acts as your security engineer, reads the system logs, and leaves a plain English report for you to read over your morning coffee.
That is amazing.
But the third feature is perhaps the most transformative, which is Skills 2.0.
Skills 2.0 is fascinating. It allows you to create, version, and share reusable modular abilities.
Modularity is huge here.
It really is.
Yeah.
So if you figure out a perfect prompt and workflow for writing automated tests for your specific quirky framework, you don't have to type that massive prompt out every time.
You just package it.
Right, you package it into a skill, you can share it with your team or the wider developer community. People are already sharing complex CI/CD helper skills that anyone can just plug and play.
It's a whole new ecosystem.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Creating loops and scheduled tasks and packaging complex skills sounds amazing. But does the AI actually maintain its train of thought during these massive multi-hour operations?
That is the big question, yeah.
Because I remember older models from even just a year ago, if you gave them a task that required holding on to context for more than 20 minutes, they would completely lose the plot.
They just forget what they were doing.
They'd forget what file they were working on and get hopelessly disoriented. So you might be wondering how Claude 2.0 avoids that trap.
Well, it avoids it because of the underlying mechanics of the Opus 4.6 model. Claude 2.0 thrives on these long tasks, specifically because of its massive context window.
How massive are we talking?
We are talking about up to 1 million tokens in beta.
1 million tokens.
Yeah.
I mean, that is essentially an entire library of code.
It is. The way it prevents context degradation is by keeping your entire repository's architecture, plus the entire conversational history of the current task, in its active working memory.
So it never forgets.
Right. It doesn't have to guess why a file was changed 3 hours ago because it can literally see that change in its current prompt window. It can iterate endlessly and remain perfectly aligned with your original goal.
We can talk about how impressive the mechanics are all day, but what does the actual data say?
The numbers don't lie.
Let's look at the hard numbers, because the benchmarks from 2025 to 2026 are wild. On SW Bench Verified, which is the gold standard for testing an AI's ability to solve real-world software engineering issues, Opus 4.5 and 4.6 are the historical leaders.
By a wide margin.
They are hitting between 72 and 80% success rates.
Let's contextualize what an 80% success rate on SWE Bench actually means, though, because these aren't simple math problems.
No, not at all.
The test pulls complex real-world bug reports straight from actual GitHub repositories.
Real bugs from real developers.
Exactly. It means the AI is successfully downloading a broken code base, diagnosing the issue from a user's vague complaint, writing the fix, and passing the tests 8 out of 10 times, completely autonomously.
That is, it's just staggering. And it gets even crazier when you look at Terminal Bench, which tests how well the agent can navigate and execute commands in a raw terminal environment.
Right.
Claude 2.0 is scoring roughly 43%. Now, 43% might sound low out of context, but you have to look at the landscape.
You really do.
Tools like Cursor paired with earlier models or OpenAI codecs sit around 25 to 30%. Claude is completely blowing past them.
And that jump from 30 to 43% in a terminal environment is massive because terminal tasks require strict sequential logic.
One wrong move and you're done.
Exactly. Think about how you use a terminal. If you mess up a directory navigation command on step 2, you are in the wrong folder. That means steps 3 through 10 will instantly fail. Scoring 43% proves the agent's ability to self-correct.
Wait, how does it actually know it made an error so it can self-correct?
It actually reads the standard output and error logs returned by the terminal.
Like a human would.
Yes. When a command fails and spits out red text, the AI parses that text just like a human reading a monitor. It realizes, oh, I'm in the wrong directory, types the command to go back, and tries again. That is a huge leap in reasoning.
It is. But the sources also revealed some surprising non-coding integrations that I definitely did not expect from a CLI developer tool.
Yeah, this was a pleasant surprise.
It apparently connects directly with Google Workspace, Excel, and PowerPoint.
Yeah.
It can even create interactive charts.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this transforms Claude Code from a strict programming utility into a cross-functional tool.
Right.
Because Anthropic recognizes that very few people just write code in a vacuum. You write code, you analyze the performance data, and then you have to explain that data to non-technical stakeholders.
That's the reality of the job. Claude 2.0 isn't just doing your homework for you, it's making the slide deck to present your homework to the boss.
Which saves so much time.
It can analyze the database migration it just performed, generate a chart showing the performance gains, and drop that directly into a Google slide. It's built for what the sources call the full-stack human.
A full-stack human.
Yeah, the developer who also manages products and handles data analytics.
It's empowering.
Okay, so 80% on benchmarks, making slide decks, reading error logs like a human, self-managing AI subteams. It sounds like a perfect, frictionless utopia.
There's always a catch.
What is the catch? Because there's always a catch.
Yeah.
Let's step into the shadows here.
The sources are very clear about the significant drawbacks and challenges that come with wielding this much power. The first, and probably most immediate friction point, is cost.
Yeah, let's talk about the price.
Running a large pull request with a multi-agent team can cost anywhere from $15 to $25 per run.
Wow. At $25 a run, that is incredibly expensive for a hobbyist or a student trying to build a side project in their dorm room. Are we looking at a future where only well-funded enterprise developers can afford to use these top-tier AI tools?
Well, you're looking at it like a consumer software subscription. You have to flip your perspective.
Okay, how so?
To an enterprise, $25 to have a senior-level AI autonomously resolve a complex feature ticket is nothing.
Oh, true.
That ticket would have taken a human engineer 3 days and cost thousands of dollars in salary and overhead. In that context, $25 is negligible. It shifts the financial model from a software subscription to a legitimate business operational expense.
That makes sense for the enterprise, but it still leaves the indie dev out in the cold a bit. And those costs can spiral rapidly because of another issue the sources mentioned, which is over-engineering.
Yes, the over-engineering is a real issue.
Apparently, Claude 2.0 has a lingering habit from older versions, where it sometimes massively overcomplicates incredibly simple solutions. You ask it for a basic HTML form, and it tries to build a highly scalable, multi-layered component architecture.
Right, because AI models are trained on vast amounts of complex enterprise-grade code from massive repositories.
It just assumes everything needs to be huge.
Exactly. Their default state is often to assume a high level of complexity is required for everything. It takes deliberate, firm prompting to force the model to keep things simple.
And when you are paying by the token, an over-engineered solution isn't just annoying to read.
No, it is literally draining your wallet faster,
Then there is the danger of vendor lock-in.
which is terrifying for businesses.
If your entire critical workflow, your loops, your scheduled tasks, your custom skills 2.0 relies entirely on Claude code, what happens if Anthropic decides to double their pricing next year?
Or if they change their usage policies.
Exactly. Your entire remote AI development team could essentially vanish overnight, and you wouldn't have the custom pipelines to fall back on.
Which brings us to an even more immediate, tangible risk, which is security. We cannot gloss over the fact that Claude Code is executing commands locally on your machine.
That's a big deal.
It is. It has access to your files, your environment variables, your system architecture.
It's typing directly into your computer's brain.
Precisely. Now, Anthropic has built in significant safeguards and permissions checks, but executing commands locally carries inherent risks.
Like what?
Well, if the AI is tricked by a malicious package hidden in your project's dependencies, or if it simply hallucinates a destructive system command, the consequences are real.
Because it's actually running the command.
Right. The safety net of checkpoints protects your code repository, but it doesn't necessarily protect your underlying operating system. It requires a high level of user discipline. You simply cannot blindly approve every execution when it comes to local system commands.
But the most philosophical and maybe the most concerning shadow mentioned in the sources is the employment debate. And this directly impacts the future of the industry.
It really does.
If an agent can maintain a repository on its own, if it can spin up sub-agents to write the front end, the back end, and the tests, how will junior developers ever learn to code?
This raises an important question, and it is the central dilemma of our current tech era. The traditional path to becoming a senior developer involves years of writing boilerplate code, making embarrassing mistakes, fixing minor bugs.
That's rut work.
Yeah, and slowly, painfully understanding how the pieces of a massive system fit together. It is the digital equivalent of sweeping the floors and stocking the shelves before you get to manage the shop.
But if Claude 2.0 is sweeping the floors, building the shelves, and managing the inventory, what does the junior dev do? Just write prompts.
That's the fear.
There is a massive gap between knowing how to prompt an AI to build a login screen and fundamentally understanding the architecture of how a secure session is managed in a database.
And that knowledge gap is a systemic vulnerability. If we outsource the granular understanding of our systems to an AI, we risk creating a generation of developers who are highly effective at orchestrating software, but entirely incapable of debugging it when the AI's logic fails.
This is because they never built the foundation.
Think about what happens when the current generation of senior developers retires. If no one has spent the last decade sweeping the floors, who has the foundational architectural knowledge to become the next senior engineer? You have to understand the foundational principles to know when the AI is hallucinating or when it's over-engineering a solution.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Whether you are a seasoned senior developer looking to speed up your workflow, a product manager trying to understand your engineering team, or just someone fascinated by where technology is heading, understanding this shift is crucial.
It's unavoidable.
Because Claude Code 2.0 isn't just a shiny new tool, it represents the new baseline for how software will be built going forward.
The workflow in 2026 has officially and irreversibly moved. We are transitioning from an era of reviewing every single line of code to an era of delegating entire features and only reviewing the high-level architecture.
The big picture.
Exactly. The sources state that creators are already reporting Claude Code handles 90% of their daily work. It acts as a 10x multiplier for their output. They are acting more like editors and directors than writers.
Delegating 90% of your daily work. That is just staggering. It means the definition of what it means to be a programmer is changing in real time.
Right before our eyes.
Which leaves us with a lingering thought for you to chew on after this deep dive is over. If tools like Claude Code 2.0 entirely remove the need for humans to write and maintain granular code, will the future developer just be a product manager who speaks fluent AI?
That's a profound thought.
And if that is the case, what happens in a decade when these massive, incredibly complex digital systems inevitably break and no human actually remembers how to build the digital bricks from scratch? Will your autonomous AI development team know how to save your company, or would we be entirely on our own?